My name's Daniel. I'm 33, and if there's one thing I've learned about family, it's that love doesn't always look the same on both sides. I grew up believing that loyalty, sacrifice, and responsibility would earn me a seat at the table, literally. But by the time my brother's wedding rolled around, I learned the hard way that in my family, effort didn't equal belonging. I've always been the reliable one. Not the charming one, not the golden child, not the loud storyteller at the center of attention. Just the guy who remembered birthdays, helped with bills when things got tight, and never forgot to show up. My brother Nathan, on the other hand, had a knack for screwing up in spectacular fashion and somehow walking away praised for his resilience. Dropped out of college, lost job after job, racked up debt, and my parents still treated him like he was the second coming of Einstein. Meanwhile, I'd been working since I was 16, saved every penny, put myself through school, and even sent money home when Dad's hours got cut. Did anyone notice? Barely. I wasn't the son who needed saving, so I wasn't the son who got attention. When Nathan got engaged to Chloe, my parents practically threw a parade. My mom called her the angel we've been waiting for, and Dad couldn't stop saying how proud he was of Nathan for finally settling down. I congratulated him too, even bought a thoughtful gift for their engagement party. But deep down, I felt a familiar knot in my stomach, the kind that came from knowing I'd be a background character in their big show. I told myself it wouldn't matter. It was Nathan's wedding, not mine. I'd show up, smile, and maybe this time, just maybe, I'd be treated like more than the family wallet. That illusion cracked at the first family dinner about the wedding. We were sitting around my parents' dining table when Mom leaned toward me with that syrupy voice she used only when she wanted something. "Daniel, sweetheart," she said, brushing invisible crumbs off the tablecloth. "The venue requires a reservation fee up front. Just a small deposit to hold the space. We'll pay you back, of course." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. Of course. Those words always meant I'd never see that money again. I'd been down this road too many times. Pay first, ask questions later, swallow the resentment. Still, I heard myself say, "Sure, Mom. Send me the details." Nathan grinned across the table like it was the most natural thing in the world that I'd foot the bill. "No, thank you." Not even a nod. Just a smirk, like he expected it. The night of the engagement dinner, I showed up early, wearing my best suit, cufflinks I'd saved for special occasions, and carrying a bottle of champagne I could barely afford. The rooftop venue glowed with string lights and polished tables. A jazz band played in the corner, and laughter drifted through the air. I walked in, heart thudding, looking for my place at the table. Nathan turned to me with that smug grin of his. "Oh, hey, glad you made it," he said casually. Then he pointed to a folding chair shoved next to the trash bin. "Sorry, Daniel. This table's for family only. But hey, there's a spot for you right over there." Laughter rippled around the table. My parents didn't protest. Chloe didn't even look at me. My seat, the one I had apparently paid for, was next to a trash can. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just excluded. I was invisible. I stood there, frozen, champagne bottle still clutched in my hand, trying to convince myself this was some sick joke. Surely my brother didn't just banish me to a folding chair beside a trash can in front of everyone. Surely someone would laugh, clap me on the back, and say, "Relax, we're kidding. Sit with us." But no one did. My mom gave me that tight-lipped smile she always used when she didn't want to get involved. My dad lifted his glass in an awkward half-toast, avoiding my eyes. Chloe's parents were busy laughing at something Nathan said, and Chloe herself didn't even glance up. A couple of Nathan's friends actually chuckled when I walked toward the folding chair. The sound followed me like a shadow. I sat down, my coat still buttoned, the bottle of champagne resting on the floor at my feet. The string lights overhead shimmered, the skyline behind them beautiful, but all I could see was the back of my brother's head as he leaned in toward Chloe, whispering something that made her laugh. Every now and then, I caught fragments of their celebration. "To family," Nathan toasted, his glass raised. "To love," Chloe chimed, beaming. "To Nathan and Chloe," everyone echoed, clinking their glasses together. I sat with a plain glass of water the waiter had wordlessly set down in front of me, my throat tight. Not a single person asked if I wanted to order food. Not a single plate was brought to my little table. For almost 2 hours I sat there, invisible. I watched Nathan give a long speech about how grateful he was to be surrounded by his closest people. I watched my mom tear up when Chloe called her the best mother-in-law a girl could ask for. I watched the cake arrive, white tears topped with edible gold, and not once did anyone glance my way. By dessert, I felt hollow. Not angry, not sad, just empty. Like I wasn't even real. And then the check came. The waiter approached their table with the little leather folder in hand. He paused, looked around, then walked toward me. "My card. The deposit card." "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly. "The total for the event is $3,218. Should I charge the same card for the balance?" Every conversation at the table stopped. Heads turned. My brother raised an eyebrow, smirk tugging at his lips. "Oh yeah," Nathan said casually. "Daniel's got it." The room tilted for a second. My chest tightened. Every eye in the room was on me. And for once, I didn't shrink. I smiled. Calm, steady, cold. "Not my table," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "I was told this was for family only." You could have heard a pin drop. The waiter froze halfway between me and the main table, the bill folder in his hand like it was radioactive. Nathan's smirk faltered, just slightly. My mom blinked rapidly, her wine glass trembling as she set it down. My dad sat up straighter, his brows knitting together. Chloe looked at me for the first time all night, confused, like she hadn't realized anything was wrong until just now. The waiter cleared his throat. "Sir, you made the reservation," he said carefully. I nodded. "I did. And I paid the deposit." I gestured toward the table with its gleaming plates and empty wine bottles. "But I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I wasn't welcome. So I won't be paying." The silence was sharp, brittle, like a pane of glass ready to shatter. Nathan's face darkened. "Don't be ridiculous," he snapped, the charm gone from his voice. "It was a joke, man. Lighten up." A couple of his friends shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My mom jumped in, her tone sugar-coated but tight. "Daniel, sweetheart, you're being dramatic. We didn't mean anything by it. You know your brother, he jokes." I laughed once, short and humorless. "Yeah, that's the problem. Everything's always a joke, as long as it's at someone else's expense." Chloe's father, a stiff man in a pressed blazer, turned his sharp gaze to Nathan. "You invited your own brother here and sat him next to the trash?" His voice was low but cutting, and the weight of it made Nathan's jaw clench. My mother gave a tight smile, her voice higher now. Let's not blow things out of proportion. But I cut her off. For the first time in years, I didn't lower my head, didn't swallow the humiliation like I always did. I stood, slowly, sliding my coat back over my shoulders. Following the seating chart, I said evenly. Nathan made it very clear I'm not family. The waiter looked lost, bill folder still in his hand. Chloe's father muttered something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like, disgraceful. I picked up the champagne bottle I'd brought and set it neatly on the nearest table. That's for the happy couple, I said. Then I turned to leave. The band's slow music faltered. Someone coughed. My footsteps echoed against the rooftop tiles, louder than the laughter had ever been. Behind me, Nathan called out, his voice sharp, desperate, almost panicked. Daniel, don't walk away. But I didn't stop. Not then. Not after everything. I pushed open the rooftop door and stepped into the stairwell, the muffled sounds of clinking glasses and forced laughter echoing behind me. My hands were trembling, but not from nerves. This was something else. For the first time in years, I wasn't swallowing it. I wasn't the quiet, reliable Daniel who paid the bills and accepted scraps of recognition. I was angry. I made it down 2 flights before I heard hurried footsteps chasing me. Daniel! Wait! It was my mom. She caught up to me in the lobby, heels clicking, breath short. Sweetheart, she hissed, glancing around like she was afraid someone would overhear. What on earth are you doing? You're embarrassing your brother in front of Chloe's family. I turned slowly, the calm in my chest surprising even me. Embarrassing him? You sat me by the trash cans, Mom. Her lips pressed into a thin line. It was just seating. Why do you always take everything so personally? Can't you just be happy for your brother without making a scene? The words landed like stones, heavy but familiar. She had said variations of that line my whole life. Sensitive, overreacting, too serious. I let out a bitter laugh. Happy for him? Sure. But paying $3,000 for a party I wasn't even allowed to join? That's not being happy. That's being a fool. And I'm done playing that role. Her face twisted, a mix of indignation and panic. Daniel, please. Just cover it this once. We'll settle it later. I shook my head. No. If Nathan's the golden child, let him pay his own golden bill. Before she could reply, another voice cut through the lobby. What the hell is going on here? It was Chloe's father. He had followed her down, blazer crisp, eyes sharp as knives. His gaze darted between us. Did I hear correctly? You expected your son to pay for the entire dinner. My mom stammered. It's just how our family does things. But he wasn't buying it. He looked at me, and for the first time all evening, someone actually seemed to see me. His jaw tightened. That's disgraceful. No wonder you walked out. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I just turned, pushed through the glass doors, and stepped out into the night air. The city lights stretched out before me, glittering and endless, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to freedom. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because the next morning, my phone buzzed with a message that made my blood boil all over again. The next morning, my phone buzzed before I was even out of bed. I groaned, half expecting it to be some work notification, but when I saw the screen, my chest tightened. It was a family group chat, the one I usually stayed silent in. Nathan. Bro, what the hell was that last night? You embarrassed me in front of Chloe's parents. A second later, another came through. Mom, Daniel, you need to fix this. Everyone thinks you stormed out like a child. Just send the payment to the venue and we'll smooth it over. I stared at the screen, disbelief twisting into rage. They weren't apologizing. They weren't acknowledging what they did. They were demanding. Again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed. Not my table. Not my bill. It felt good. Too good. Within seconds, Nathan blew up the chat. Are you serious? You're gonna nickel and dime me over family? You're pathetic, Daniel. Always have been. I could almost hear his smug voice dripping through the words. Then Dad chimed in for the first time. Dad, Daniel, don't do this. Your brother has enough on his plate with the wedding. Be supportive. This is what family does. My jaw clenched. Supportive? I had been nothing but supportive my entire life. Financially, emotionally, silently. And where had it gotten me? A folding chair next to a trash can. I fired back. Family doesn't treat someone like garbage, then hand them the check. The typing bubbles popped up instantly. First Mom, then Nathan, then Mom again. Mom, Daniel, stop being dramatic. We'll pay you back. Nathan, LOL, like you even need the money. You make plenty. Just do it, man. And then the final straw. Mom, sweetheart, don't ruin Nathan's big day over something so small. Small. $3,000. Public humiliation. Years of being invisible. Small. My thumb hovered over the chat. My whole body shook. Not from fear this time, but from clarity. For once in my life, I wasn't going to cave. I hit mute conversation and tossed my phone onto the couch. But I should have known my silence wouldn't last long. Because by the afternoon, my phone rang again. And this time, it wasn't my family. It was Chloe. When I saw Chloe's name flash on the screen, my first instinct was to let it go to voicemail. But curiosity got the better of me. I answered, bracing myself for the sweet, passive-aggressive voice she always used. Instead, I got icy steel. Daniel, she snapped, skipping pleasantries. What the hell are you playing at? My father hasn't stopped talking about last night. He's furious. Do you know how embarrassing that was for Nathan and me? I took a slow breath, trying not to laugh. Embarrassing? Chloe, you ignored me all night. I sat next to a trash can. The only time anyone looked my way was when the waiter handed me the bill. That was Nathan joking around, she shot back. You always overreact. You could have just paid and avoided this mess. Something inside me snapped. All right. Just pay $3,000 to a family that treats me like I don't exist? Sure. Chloe. Sounds fair. There was a pause on the other end. Then her tone shifted. Quieter, but sharper. Listen, you're making things harder than they need to be. Nathan told me you make good money. Covering one dinner shouldn't matter. And honestly, it's the least you could do, considering how much your parents have done for you. I barked out a bitter laugh. Done for me? Chloe, my parents did nothing but remind me I wasn't enough. Every time Nathan screwed up, I was the one who bailed them out. I paid their bills. I covered their mortgage when Dad's hours were cut. Meanwhile, Nathan got away with everything. So don't stand there and tell me what I owe." She went quiet for a moment. Then her voice dropped, low and cold. "If you don't make this right, Daniel, I'm not sure you'll even be welcome at the wedding." There it was. The threat. The punishment. I closed my eyes, shaking my head. "Then don't invite me," I said simply. "Better yet, put my chair outside with the garbage. Seems to be the only place I belong." Before she could answer, I ended the call. My heart was racing, my palms damp, but my chest felt lighter than it had in years. For once, I'd said no. But I didn't realize yet that standing my ground would unleash a storm far bigger than I expected. Because the next message I got wasn't from my family at all. It was from Chloe's father. When Chloe's father called, I almost didn't pick up. I figured it would be more of the same. Scolding, guilt, demands. But something in me wanted to hear what he had to say. After all, he had been the only one last night who looked at me with even a shred of decency. "Daniel," his deep voice came through, measured but firm. "I wanted to speak with you directly." I braced myself. "If this is about the bill—" "It is," he cut in. "But not the way you think." He cleared his throat. "I want to apologize. What I saw last night was shameful. No guest, no family member, should ever be treated the way you were." For a second, I thought I misheard him. "Apologize? To me?" "Mr. Callahan, you don't need to." "I do," he insisted. "That display was humiliating, not for you, but for them. Do you realize Chloe's mother cried on the way home? She couldn't believe Nathan, and your parents thought it was acceptable to dump everything on you. My wife kept asking me, how could they treat their own son like that?" His words landed heavy, almost surreal. For years, I'd been gaslit into thinking I was too sensitive, that maybe I was imagining things. And here was someone outside the family, someone with authority, confirming what I'd always felt. I swallowed hard. "I appreciate you saying that. Really. But they don't see it that way. To them, I'm just the backup plan. The safety net." He sighed. "Then maybe it's time they learn what life looks like without their safety net." There was a pause. Then his tone sharpened. "For what it's worth, Daniel, you handled yourself with dignity last night. And frankly, you may have saved this marriage before it even started. My daughter has a lot to learn about respect." That last line stunned me into silence. Saved the marriage? What was he talking about? But before I could ask, he said, "Take care of yourself, son," and ended the call. I stood there staring at my phone, pulse racing. His words played over and over in my head. Maybe it's time they learn what life looks like without their safety net. And that's when it hit me. I'd spent my entire life propping up a family that never once propped me up. What if I finally let go? What if I walked away for good? That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling, Mr. Callahan's words echoing in my mind. Maybe it's time they learn what life looks like without their safety net. For years, I had been the invisible scaffolding holding up a house that never welcomed me inside. Mortgage payments, emergency cash, quiet favors. I told myself it was what family did. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't family. I was a wallet with legs. So, I made a decision. The next morning, I called my bank and canceled the automatic transfers I'd been making to help my parents with their mortgage. I closed the joint credit card my mother had, temporarily, put my name on 5 years ago. I even emailed the venue to make it clear I would not be responsible for any future payments related to Nathan's wedding. Felt good. Like finally dropping a boulder I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. By the afternoon, the messages started rolling in. Mom, Daniel, the bank says the mortgage payment didn't go through. Did you forget? Me? Didn't forget. Not my house. 5 minutes later, Dad called. I let it ring out. Then came Nathan. Bro, seriously? You're cutting them off now? You're unbelievable. Do you even care what this does to the family? I finally answered. My voice was calm. Do you even care what it's done to me? He scoffed. Oh, please. You're so dramatic. We gave you everything growing up. Correction, I cut in. You got everything. I got responsibility. Silence crackled on the line. Then he muttered, You're pathetic, and hung up. I stared at my phone, not angry, just done. For the first time in my life, I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their ATM. I wasn't their punching bag. I was free. But freedom has a cost. And a week later, that cost came knocking, literally, because Nathan showed up at my apartment. And he wasn't alone. It was a Saturday morning when I heard the pounding on my door. Heavy, impatient, the kind that said whoever was outside had come for a fight. When I opened it, there was Nathan, red-faced, jaw tight. And behind him stood my parents. My mom's lips were pursed into that disappointed line. Dad's arms crossed like he was already siding against me. I leaned casually on the doorframe. Well, this is a surprise. Nathan shoved past me without asking. What the hell is wrong with you? He snapped, spinning around in my living room. You've humiliated me, humiliated Chloe, and now you're screwing over Mom and Dad? What kind of son are you? I closed the door slowly, my pulse steady. The kind who finally woke up. My mother stepped forward, her voice dripping with guilt-tripping sweetness. Daniel, please. Enough of this nonsense. Your brother is under so much pressure. The least you could do is help lighten the load. That's what family does. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Funny. Family didn't do much for me last week when I was sitting next to the trash cans. My dad finally spoke, his voice low and warning. Daniel, stop being petty. You're blowing this out of proportion. I turned to him, my voice shaking, but not from fear, from years of swallowed rage finally surfacing. Out of proportion? I paid for your mortgage when you couldn't. I bailed you out of debt. I covered bills that weren't mine. And you know what I got in return? A folding chair by the garbage. Tell me again how I'm the problem here. The room went quiet, heavy. Nathan sneered, trying to break the silence. So what, you think you're some hero because you paid a few bills? Grow up, Daniel. Money doesn't mean anything. Funny, I said, stepping closer, because money only seems to mean nothing when it's mine. When it's yours, suddenly it's the most important thing in the world. He flinched, just barely, but I caught it. Then my mom tried one last time, her voice trembling with that practiced victimhood. If you walk away now, you'll regret it. We're your family. I looked at each of them in turn. My brother, spoiled and smug. My father, cold and dismissive. My mother, manipulative to the end. No, I said quietly. You're his family. I was just the wallet. And with that, I opened the door wide. Get out. For the first time in my life, I saw them speechless. Nathan's face twisted in fury, but he didn't move. My dad muttered something under his breath. My mom's eyes welled up, but not with real tears. With anger. They left without another word. And just like that, the house was quiet again. But the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. The silence after they left was deafening, but in the best way. For the first time in my life, I felt no weight pressing down on my chest. No guilt. No obligation. Just air. I sat on the couch, staring at the closed door, replaying every moment of the past week. The trash can seat. The bill shoved onto me. The guilt trips, the insults, the endless expectation that I would bend until I broke. And then I thought of Mr. Callahan's words. Maybe it's time they learn what life looks like without their safety net. He was right. They'd built their lives on the assumption that I would always be there to catch them. And I had. 4 years. But not anymore. Over the next few weeks, the calls and messages slowed. First, they were angry. Then they turned desperate. Finally, they went silent. Nathan's wedding came and went. I didn't attend. From the photos Chloe's family posted online, it looked beautiful. But I didn't feel a single pang of regret, because I had finally chosen myself. I poured all the energy I'd wasted on being their safety net into my own life. I traveled. I took up hobbies I'd put off for years. I made friends who actually valued me for more than what I could give. And you know what? The world didn't collapse without me. They managed. Or maybe they didn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. Sometimes I wonder if my family ever sits around and talks about me, the brother who finally said no. Maybe they paint me as the villain, the ungrateful son. Maybe they finally see the truth. Either way, I don't care. Because the night they put me by the trash cans, they showed me exactly where I stood. And the night I walked away, I finally stood up for myself.